What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in this video, I'm going to be going through my Week 17 top 18 defense rankings. I've already gone through the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends, so check those out if you haven't seen them already. But this video, just focusing in on the defenses. Hopefully, this video helps you guys go out there, get the best defense possible to bring home that fantasy football championship. If you guys enjoyed the video, just do me a huge favor and hit that like button. But let's just dive right into it, starting off with my number one defense. They're actually going to be playing today. It's the Cleveland Browns going up against the Jets. This really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. You have one of the better defenses in the NFL going up against one of, if not the worst offenses. That's really, the perfect combination here when you're picking a fantasy football defense. So the Browns are my locked in number one. Then at number two, another really strong option, the very tough 49ers defense going up against the Commanders. I do think that shifting from Sam Howell to Jacoby Brissett makes the Commanders matchup a little bit less, desirable, because for Sam Howell, he could be a little bit turnover prone. He could hold on to the ball, lead into some sacks. I think Brissett probably will play a little bit safer, but I still think this is a solid spot here for the 49ers. And then I have the Bills going up against the Patriots, another solid defense going up against a bottom tier offense. I think most would agree that's probably like the clear top three. Some people may have someone else in there, but for me, those are my clear top three defenses. After the Bills, I'm actually going to go with the Bears. I feel like I say it every week. This defense has just been very solid since the trade deadline. Not a great fantasy day in week 16, but it wasn't terrible. They're going up against the Falcons offense, which definitely hasn't been like a locked and loaded great unit all season long. So I like the matchup there for the Bears. And then I'm going to have back-to-back defenses in the same matchup. So Colts taking on the Raiders. This Colts defense, aside from last week, had been pretty solid. And they go up against this Raiders offense that hasn't been that bad over the past 2 weeks. I mean, they had the crazy game against the Chargers. Nothing terrible against the Chiefs. In week 16, I'm still not super convinced that this Raiders unit offensively is like a solid unit. I think they're still a bottom tier offense. So I think this is a nice matchup for the Colts. And then I also think that the Raiders are a really strong option here as a defense that has been very impressive since they made the switch at the head coaching position. We just saw them go out, really limit the Chiefs in week 16 and scored a defensive touchdown. So it's not like they're just beating up on terrible offenses. They have great performances in back-to-back weeks. Colts offense, not super scary. So I think both those defenses are solid plays. Then I'm going to go with the Rams. Not necessarily a defense that has been super tough, but I like the matchup here going up against the Giants. Don't think the quarterback change really does a ton. Going from Tommy DeVito to Tyrod Taylor, still think this is going to be a bottom tier offense. Then I have the Falcons going up against the Bears. Talked about the Bears as a top 5 defense. I think the Falcons are a top 10 option. Bears offense, can be prone to turnovers. Also, there could be sacks available there for the Falcons. Falcons defense as a whole has been solid, so I think that there's a nice blend there. And then I'm going to go with the Jets going up against the Browns. Definitely think this Browns offense has really come around since Joe Flacco, and I'm really interested to see how this, game kind of shakes out. One way you could look at it is that this Browns offense has been rolling. Joe Flacco has been playing at a super high level. They're going to go in there. They're going to keep the momentum, and they're going to put up a solid outing against this Jets defense. On the other hand, you look at this Jets defense that has been pretty tough. Do they go out there and shut down the Browns? I think it's probably one of the more interesting matchups this week, both in terms of like defensively and just in terms of like fantasy weapons all across the board for the Browns. And then looking at the top 10 here, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to slide in as my number 10 defense. Not a defense I'm super high on, individually, but I really like the matchup here against the Panthers. I know they had a solid game against the Packers, but this Packers defense is really struggling. And we have a full season sample size of this Panthers offense, and it definitely hasn't been pretty. Then as my number 11 defense, I'm going with the Eagles. Definitely a defense that has struggled a little bit, but I think they're a fine option here going up against the Cardinals. Even though I think there are pieces on the Cardinals that can produce fantasy-wise, Kyler Murray and Trey McBride. As a whole, I'm not super high on their offense here going up against the Eagles. And then to wrap up the top 12, I'm going to go with the Broncos. The Broncos kind of had a smash spot against the Patriots in week 16. Didn't necessarily come through with a huge fantasy game, but it's not like it was a terrible performance out of them. They get another really nice matchup here against the Chargers. I do think pivoting away from Russell Wilson is a net negative for this Broncos defense. Obviously, Russell Wilson's not playing defense, but it seems like the Broncos are kind of willing to concede this season. Not saying they're not trying to go out and win, but I think Russell Wilson is their best quarterback. And so it seems like they're more looking forward to the future, which if the offense is not as great, that could kind of hurt the defense here in this matchup. But I still like them just based on the matchup going up against the Chargers. Then just outside the top 12, I have the Ravens as the number 13 defense. Now, this is kind of the tough balance of one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL, but going up against one of the better offenses in the Dolphins. Last week, I pretty much faded both the Ravens and 49ers defenses. It worked out for one of the teams. You didn't want to start with the 49ers defense. But on the other hand, the Ravens went out, had a really strong fantasy day. So I think this defense has kind of proven that even in tough matchups, they're still startable. Like we saw last week going up against the 49ers. Then after the Ravens, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. There's been a lot of talk about this Chiefs offense, the struggles that unit has had. On the other side of the ball, though, this Chiefs defense is just a strong unit. We saw the Bengals just really kind of self-destruct in Week 16. I'm not expecting that type of performance out of this unit, but it is a decent sign if you're, trying to fire up the Chiefs. But, prior to Week 16, Browning had looked solid. Some decent weapons there on the Bengals, so I think the Chiefs are like a fine option just outside the top 12. Then I have the Texans going up against the Titans. Not super concerned about this Titans offense. It seems like the Texans are kind of getting healthy, at least on the offensive side, which I think can kind of carry over to the defense. If the offense is possessing the ball more, it's going to put less pressure on the defense. Then I have the Seahawks going up against the Steelers. I know the Steelers offensively had a huge boom week in Week 16. It's really not something I think is going to carry over moving forward. Like, I don't think Mason Rudolph is going to come in and be the savior moving forward here in Week 17 and beyond. So I think the Seahawks are a nice option. Then I have the Buccaneers going up against the Saints. Bucks had a solid Week 16 fantasy-wise. Not super scared of this Saints offense. And then wrapping up these rankings with the Cowboys. Not a great matchup here against the Lions, but just a spot where you're playing one of the better defenses. They're also at home where they've been much more impressive compared to going on the road. So that's going to wrap it up for my top 18 defenses. Hopefully this helps you figure out the defense position in your fantasy leagues. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. This is going to be my last set of just, videos in terms of week-to-week in-season content. So hopefully you guys did enjoy it, and I hope you guys are able to go out there and bring home the W in your championships. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next one.